Hello Year 6, hope you are well. Come back to read you the next few chapters of Journey to Joburg. There's not many chapters left, about 4 chapters, so I'm going to read you 2 today and 2 more on Monday, and then we'll finish the book. Now the last place where we left the story was when Mama, Nalido and Tiro were on their way back to their village. They'd finally found their mum, and they've got the help that they needed for their sister. Okay, so the next chapter is called The Hospital. None of them spoke after that. Their thoughts all turned to Dino. When the train pulled in at their station, Mama hurried the children out onto the platform. Outside, she spoke anxiously to a man standing against a car. After she had taken some notes from her purse, he agreed to take them first to their village and then go on to the hospital. So much money, thought Naledi. Mama must have borrowed it. As the car bumped along the road into the village, churning up the dust, it seemed longer than 2 days that they had set off walking. Mama directed the driver to the house, and people looked up as the car passed by. It wasn't often a car came this way. The sound of the motor brought Nono Mangwane outside. Nono looked so thin and weary, but her eyes lit up when she saw whom it was. "The child is very sick," she whispered in a low voice. Mama rushed in and came out clasping Dino close to her, the little girl lying limply in Mama's arms, her eyes sunken. "You children must stay with Nono," Mama said firmly as they struggled to bring the case out of the car. "Oh, please, Mama, can I come with you? Please," Naledi pleaded. "Tiro can help Nono." Mama looked across at Nono, whose tired face nodded yes. Naledi gave her grandmother a quick hug. "Thank you, Nono. Tiro will be... No, thank you, Nono. Tiro will tell you everything, and please don't be angry with us. We're very sorry we gave you more worry. But we had to get Mama," put in Tiro. "Well, come in and tell us about it," invited Mangwane. Nono put an arm around Tiro's shoulder as they waved goodbye. From inside the car, the lady watched the little group grow smaller until they had quite disappeared behind the clouds of dusk. As the car now jerked its way back to the town over the rough roads, Mama cradled Dino in her arms, whispering soft words to her. Naledi held Dino's little hand, stroking and playing gently with her fingers, but the little girl made no response. Each minute on the way to the hospital now seemed so important. What if they got there just a minute too late? That couldn't happen, could it? What do you think are the thoughts that are going through Mama's mind at the moment, and what do you think Naledi is thinking? Just think carefully about everything Naledi has gone through over the last couple of days. Do you think there's a sense of relief finally that she's in the car? What about the mum? How is she feeling? What kind of conversations also do you think are going on back home with her brother Tiro and Nono and Mangwane, their aunt? Do you think they're going to be angry with them? What do you think? Use the story, knowledge of the story to help you sort of formulate those thoughts. At last they were travelling through the town and then out into the open again, until there at last was a cluster of low white buildings with a few trees and bushes scattered between them. Some people were waiting by the roadside outside the hospital, and as soon as Mama and Naledi climbed out of the car, an old man came hobbling over to the driver. He was followed by others, and almost immediately the car, packed tight with people, was rumbling off back to the town. Naledi stayed close to Mama as she made her way past people sitting or lying down on the ground in front of the buildings. A lady with a thin blanket wrapped over her shoulders pointed the way. Around the corner, they found the queue of patients. It led up to a veranda where a woman in white sat at a desk. "Is that the doctor for Dino?" Naledi whispered. Mama shook her head. "No, we must get a card first. The doctor is inside." The queue moved very slowly as people shuffled forward after every few minutes. Some patients who were too weak to stand lay wedged against the wall and had to be helped along. Just in front of Mama and Naledi was a young woman with a small baby tied in a blanket to her. Naledi wondered if the woman or the baby was the patient. The sun came down on the queue. Mama tried to screen Dino from the glare, but the heat seemed to soak in everywhere, and Dino began to whimper. Mama tried rocking her gently, while Naledi tried singing her little songs, which had always made her laugh. However, now Dino didn't even seem to hear them. When finally it was Mama's turn at the desk, Naledi relaxed a little. Now Dinio could go inside and be given medicine. But when Mama led the way down a corridor and into a room filled with far more people than had been outside, Naledi felt panic grip her. Are all these people before Dinio, Mama? She cried softly. They are also very sick, Naledi. We must be patient. They were lucky to find space on a bench next to the young woman with the baby. She didn't look much older than Grace, thought Naledi. It was a young woman who spoke first. It's always a long to wait. I was here before with my baby and now he's sick again. What's the problem, Mama asked. Last time the doctor said he must have more milk, but I've no money to buy it. Mama sighed. I think it's the same sickness with my child. Now, just compare your own experiences if you've ever sort of gone to a hospital or to your GP surgery, what that was like and what it must have been like for Naledi. Sort of think about the how different it is. The long queues, waiting outside, then going inside, fighting more long queues. And the kind of things that they're going for are sort of basic things about food and stuff that generally, we don't necessarily have to worry about as much in this country. Right, life and death is the next chapter. All through the afternoon, they watched the patients being called one at a time by the nurse. Once the doctor himself came out, his face seemed nearly as white as his coat, except for the dark shadows under his eyes. By mid-afternoon, Dinio needed water, but when Mama carried her to a small fountain in one corner, she almost turned away. It was so dirty. Naledi came over and struggled to cup some water in her hand without touching the sides. Then she let the water dribble over Dinio's dry little lips. Naledi now began to feel her own empty stomach twist and turn. Her last meal had been with Grace the night before. Mama seemed to read her thoughts and sent her out to see what she could buy for a few cents. When Naledi came back with 3 small buns, Mama offered one to the young woman. From the way she ate it, Naledi could tell that she was very hungry too. So it's interesting, isn't it? The generosity that you see, that even though they don't have much, that they are generous and kind towards others. It was only after the light had begun to fade outside that the young woman was called to take her baby to the doctor. The children had been very quiet all afternoon, wrapped snugly against its mother's back. In very little time, the young woman came out of the doctor's room, clutching a plastic bag. Her whole body was shaking, and a man close to the door caught her just as her legs gave way. My baby, he's dead. Her sobs filled the waiting room. Before Mama could go to comfort her, the nurse reappeared, calling for Dinio. The sobbing pierced Naledi's mind. She heard Mama telling her to stay where she was, and she watched numbly as her little sister was now carried away. Then Naledi's gaze shifted to the plastic bag. The little baby had seemed to be sleeping so peacefully just a few minutes ago. Was it already dead then? With head bowed, almost buried in the parcel, the young woman forced herself up and stumbled out of the waiting room. Naledi's eyes, now fixed on the doctor's door, but instead she saw a plastic parcel being laid in a grave. It made her want to run to Mama. She sat gripping tightly onto her seat. When Mama finally returned, her arms were empty. What happened, Mama? Naledi cried. We must leave Dinio here, and I must come back in 3 days. Her throat is very bad, and her body is too weak. Mama's voice sounded choked. Before leaving, Mama had to pay at the desk. There would be more to pay later, so she checked the remaining notes in her purse. We've nothing for bus fare. We'll just have to walk home. Mama looked drained. But it's not so far as Joburg, Mama. Naledi put her arm through Mama's. But it's not so far as Joburg, Mama. Naledi put her arm through Mama's. She was surprised at her own sudden confidence, when only a little while ago she had wanted to run to Mama for comfort as well. Well, at least they had each other. Outside it was dark, but the moon fortunately lit the road, and Mama knew a way which avoided the town. So with arms linked, they set off on the long walk home. On the way, Naledi asked about the doctor. Mama said they were lucky because he had been very gentle with Dinio, although he looked sick himself from tiredness. Did he say Dinio will get better, Mama? We can only hope, my child. Mama paused and pressed Naledi's hand. I'm thankful you came for me. We must hope the medicine will save her. The doctor had also told Mama that Dinio needed milk, fruit and vegetables to keep her body strong. But he didn't tell me how to find the money to buy them all, Mama added quietly. By the time they reached their village, the moon had moved far across the dark sky. Nono stirred as they entered the house. She had been waiting anxiously for their return. Naledi could hardly keep her eyes open while she drank the tea Nonna gave her. She crept under the blanket, finishing her last mouthful. Okay, so we've just read about their experience of taking their youngest, Naledi's experience of taking her younger sister to the hospital. Imagine how long it took, the journey there in the car, the amount of time they had to wait. And even then, they didn't really get what they sort of needed. They're having to pay for more. They didn't have enough money to come all the way back home. And it sort of goes to highlight and show how difficult life was for just simple things like when you get ill and trying to get treatment. Interestingly, the doctor was a white person. So what does that tell you in terms of doctors and the availability of doctors? Do you think there were black doctors around at the time? Okay, so perhaps you might want to find out some more about that. I will read the final installments of, there's 2 more chapters left, and then we will finish the story. So until then, you take care, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.